Welcome, everyone. I'm so happy to have you here for this workshop tonight, Healthy Food Swaps. And if you didn't get the handout copied off already, please go to the comment section and get that link and do that so that you can follow along, because there's some really good information that I think is super, super important to understand. My name is Erleen Tilton. I am a health coach of many years. I am a certified nutritionist and a certified aromatherapist, and I'm an author of several books. But I started my health journey with my own poor health, emotionally and physically. And I turned to healthy food swaps because that was the way I could get well. I didn't know this at the time, but I was working with a naturopath that guided me down this path, and I was so grateful for him and have been forever since, because of the powerful change that came over me once I turned from all the foods that weren't good for me and started including all those things that would really support a healthy gut and a healthy life. So forever since, I have really worked with people to help them understand how powerful nature is. And when we turn to nature for the foods we eat, all of our drinks, cleaning products, body care, personal health care, like essential oils and herbals, these are powerful tools from nature. Nature has the solutions. And when we learn to tap into that, wow, our lives change, just like mine did. So tonight we're going to start with talking about what's wrong first, and then we'll go into why make these healthy food swaps, how to do it, and what to use. So let's talk about the why first. I always think that it's so important to talk about the why. Have you ever thought about why there are so many food sensitivities and so many people really looking to nature for solutions in today's world? Well, in the last 30 to 50 years, more and more recently, even in the last 10 and 20 years, there has been so many things that are being done to our food. But it has started 50 and more years ago. So the things that have been started happening with our foods is, let's start just with grains. Most of our grains today, they will tell you they're not genetically modified, but that's simply not true. Anytime you take a grain and you infuse it with pesticides, so it repels from the seed, basically you're messing with the genetics of that grain. Most of our grains have been messed with. They are infused with pesticides, and that takes a toll on our bodies because our bodies cannot tolerate that. Not only that, and I'm talking about most of the grains that are grown commercially. Unless you find organic, then you most likely have a commercially grown grain with those types of seeds. So in addition to those pesticides, they add more for the growing of them as far as fertilizers. Again, these are chemicals foreign to our bodies. And again, our bodies react to those things. And that they create both of these types of pesticides and inorganic materials to feed our plants, which are just basically chemical. Those chemicals act as xenoestrogens, which create havoc with our hormones, with our emotions, with our moods, with a lot of other physical and emotional processes in our body. And we don't need those chemicals. Chemicals are something that we need to remove. But when it starts at the grain level, that's when it's a challenge. So then they take these grains And another problem is they strip everything good out of it. They take all the bran and the vitamins, and then they bleach it, which is another harmful process. And then they put it in everything imaginable so that we are caused to eat these all day long. From sunup to sundown, people are eating cold cereals and toast and pancakes, waffles, donuts, bagels, cookies and breads and pastas and more snacks and more snacks and more snacks. There's just so much in our diets today, which is a real cause for concern. And it is a culprit to our many food sensitivities. So I just want us to be aware that this is where a lot of these food sensitivities are coming from, for all the chemical, genetically modified substances that are being done to our grains. Now, sugar in general is much the same way. The sugar beet and the sugar cane, most of those are genetically modified. I think all sugar beets are. I'm not sure about all sugar cane, but most of it is genetically modified. And of all the other sweeteners that are out there, I've seen the comments so many times. These are terrible sweeteners, get rid of them, like the saccharin and the artificial sweeteners. There's some really, really bad ones. And when they find out how bad those are, they say, sure, isn't that bad? But there are so many other things that we can do instead. We can remove the sugar from our diet, especially since there's so much in our diet. And again, this is taken, stripped of its vitamins and minerals, and bleached to where we have a pure carbohydrate that it doesn't supply anything to our bodies nutritionally. There's no nutritional value in sugar. And that can be really harsh. If there's no nutritional value, actually sugar can't even be considered a food. That's kind of a scary thought when you stop and think about it. So the next one is dairy. What's wrong with dairy? Again, I learned this just recently, and I was really upset to find out that all of our alfalfa grown commercially is genetically modified. Why? Because that's what we feed our cows and our horses. And all the cows, that's what they're eating for their main staple. So cows are given a diet of genetically modifying grains as well as even their alfalfa. But most of that starts off on a bad note. There's pesticides and herbicides as well in those foods. So it's what our animals are eating. So then they take our milk, and of course they're vaccinating the cows. They're giving them heavily antibiotics. And so all of that is coming through our milks. So, in my study about milk as a nutritionist, I have learned that really we don't need milk and milk products after we're weaned. That's just, no other mammal drinks milk after they're weaned, right? Cows don't. Horses, goats, you name it. After they're weaned, they never drink milk again. They go to their grains and their greens. They go to their bulk foods. And so why are we as humans drinking milk? Well, there are things that we do like with kind of milk products, and I'm not saying it's all bad. But when we are starting with our homogenized, pasteurized, genetically modified, produced milk, then it starts really on an unhealthy note. So those are the main things that I'm going to talk about. We, in the same sense, because we've talked about the milk, our eggs are not what they should be. Usually, again, the chicken's diet is not greens and producing our omega-3 oils. There are a lot of grains and they're omega-6 eggs instead. So they're not a good healthy source. And then our meats, not only, again, like I said, our meats are our animals are genetically modified fed, but then there's so much processes. There's so many chemical additives in meats. And then we have all of our processed meats that are really, really full of a lot of unhealthy chemicals that are foreign to the body. Again, these chemicals create those xenoestrogens that really wreak havoc with our hormones and our emotions and create a lot of other physical and emotional challenges that we have in our world today. So I think it's really, really important to understand why we are having so many food sensitivities and challenges with our foods and why we need to make healthy swaps. So we're going to start with grains, and I will tell you what I use, and I could have filled this whole counter full of examples, but I just decided to stay with some basics. So hopefully some of the things that I share will be helpful to you. So in these last couple of years or 3 years, a little bit more, I have really been exploring into going more grain-free, simply because a lot of our grains are not dependable. And I actually feel better without all those grain foods. And so what do you replace them with? Occasionally, it's really nice to have bread or something that is very similar to, going to take that place and that space of breads. So let me show you some of the ones that I like and have used and have found good success with. So basically, when it comes to baking, I have turned to almond flour. Now, I like almond flour. I realize there's a lot of people that can't have almond flour, but I love the fact that I can make almost anything straight across 1 cup of grain flour to 1 cup of almond flour. It works really nice. Now, one good example of this is I finally learned how to make rolls. Oh my gosh, I have been so happy. These are my rolls. And actually, if you see these, they're so good. They look and taste, actually, I put a little bit of rosemary weed and a couple of drops of rosemary essential oil, but look at these nice rolls. They are just super, super yummy. Very, very soft. You'd never know that these were grain-free. They are, and like I said, they're rosemary and oh, they taste so delicious. But these are great rolls and they're completely grain-free. There is, the main ingredients are almond flour and psyllium husk powder, which is probably not something that you have in your home, and eggs. And so these are wonderful if you want to learn how to make rolls. And any of the recipes that I'm sharing here tonight, if you want to have these, then make sure that you put in the comments, just say, I would like the recipes, or just say recipes, please. And I'll make sure and get those to you. So, like I said, wonderful. I love being able to make these rolls on occasion. And like I said, everybody I've served them to don't even know that they are not with grains, made with grains. Cookies, I've made cookies this week as well as these cupcakes. Actually, these cupcakes, this is not chocolate, it's actually carob, but they're dairy-free, sugar-free, and grain-free. There is no grain or even almond flour in these. I do have almond butter, but you could put sunflower butter or even peanut butter. I don't advise using peanut butter because peanuts are grown underground. They are actually full of mold and they're very acidic too. So I choose not to do that. I'm actually going to show a frosting with these in just a few minutes. So anyway, they are great. I love even making, I mean, the fact that they're completely no flour at all is just amazing. So really great cupcakes. So if you don't like the almond flour, there's a couple of other choices. Coconut flour is very absorbent, whereas the almond flour, I can use 1 cup to 1 cup. The coconut flour is about 1/3 to a cup or even 1/4. I mean, it really absorbs the moisture, and so you have to be careful when you're substituting. But yes, I have some recipes that I really like the coconut flour with, and it does a great job. Now, if none of those work for you, I have found another. This is tiger nut flour. And these are for people that can't do the almond and maybe coconut. Tiger nut is not a grain, it's a seed, but it replaces grains really well. And so a lot of people that can't do a lot of the other flours, rather than go to all the starches, I just cringe when I look at these gluten-free flours. They're just full of tapioca and cornstarch, and I don't like any of that stuff. I want to trade out all of those unhealthy carbs to healthy proteins. And that's why I like the coconut and almond. So this is still more of a carb, but at least it's not those starchy carbs. And this tiger nut flour is actually pretty good when it comes to replacing. So let's talk about just a couple of minutes about pastas. So initially I started going towards the brown rice pasta. This is a spaghetti pasta. And here's a brown rice pasta, the corkscrews, is that what they call them? Anyway, those are fun, and they're brown rice. And when I cook them up, they're a little darker than regular pasta, but the flavor is great. Oh, and then also you can do the pad thai. There's the pad thai, and again, that's rice. But then I found this is cauliflower flour pasta. And guess what the ingredients are in this? Lentil, pea, and cauliflower flours. So it's just amazing. This is actually really yummy. And again, this is kind of just a macaroni shell, but I have tried it and it's really been yummy. Never know that it was not a grain pasta, okay? I also found this. Now, I found this recently, and this is an edamame spaghetti. And I thought, really? Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh, this is the best ever. And I actually made some here. This is my chicken Alfredo. And I really love this. This is so good. This is so yummy. And there's no dairy in it. What I use is a mixture of cashews and olive oil and some seasonings, garlic, of course, and it makes the most wonderful Alfredo sauce. And I pre-cook the chicken, and then I make the Alfredo sauce and cook up this edamame spaghetti. And my husband, who normally is a little finicky about this kind of stuff, he loved it the first time I made it and asked for it 2 or 3 nights later. He thought this was so good. And actually he came in and saw that I was fixing this again and was really excited. So it is very yummy, even for the skeptics. This is really good. So this is a wonderful recipe that you'll want to make sure and have. Last but not least, when it comes to like rice, you can buy the cauliflower rice. And if you're not familiar with that, I'm not much of a rice eater to begin with, but occasionally I really, if I want some rice, sometimes I just do the brown rice. And other times I will go for the cauliflower rice in different recipes. And I have added this in different recipes, and it's great. I really like adding that. So, fun things that you can do to actually swap your grain flours and start using either your nut flours or other grains that don't have gluten, or even your legumes or vegetables. So it's pretty cool that you can make these healthier food swaps, and they're really awesome. All right, let's talk about dairy. What can we do for dairy? So over the years, I've learned that I don't eat cereal. I don't ever cook cereals, or, that's not my type of diet. I actually don't even eat breakfast. So, but when I do use it for cooking, there's either almond milk or coconut milk, or this is even macadamia nut milk. My favorite is either the macadamia nut milk or the coconut milk. And those are about all I do. I always make sure that I get the unsweetened. I do not want any sweetening. And I always look for something that's really clean ingredients. I do have an almond milk maker as well, and I can make almond milk with just your raw almonds, and that's good. When it comes to like sour cream or whipped cream, I love using just regular coconut milk. Now, I do buy it in the can. I am not one that buys hardly anything in the can. I try to do away with cans, but this is something that I actually really do like for those times where I need like a whipped cream. So I'm actually going to show you, I've already opened the lid. I'm going to show you how to make a frosting. And it's super, super simple to make. So I'm going to take my can here, and just depending on, well, I've only got a few of my cupcakes to frost, but this is probably about a half a cup of the coconut cream that's on top. And I'll probably only need about a half a cup of that. So then I'm going to add, we haven't talked about sweeteners yet, but I will be talking about monk fruit as a sweetener. One more spoon here. So as far as this is powdered monk fruit, and again, I'll talk about that in a minute. So I'm only going to use, usually I'll do about a tablespoon per cup. So we're not doing a whole cup. So I'm going to do about a half a tablespoon there of the powdered monk fruit. And then I'm going to add a tiny bit of vanilla. And usually I do about a teaspoon, so I'll do about a half or a quarter teaspoon of that in there. And I always like to add my essential oils, either wild orange or lemon. So I think I'll do actually the wild orange, because I did a little bit of wild orange in the cupcake. So for this, I'm going to add 2 drops of wild orange. So it has a little bit of a wild orange flavor. And then I just whisk it up. And you'll just see that this just turns into whipped cream, and there's nothing to it. It's just great to be able to take that coconut cream. Now I do chill the can first. So chill the can, and then just these 3 ingredients added. We have this wonderful frosting already made. Isn't that simple? Okay, so this is what it looks like. It's just great. So now I'm going to take this flourless cupcake and we are going to add our whipped cream on it. And there you have it. You can put a red raspberry on top if you'd like, but these are so yummy. Like I said, it's amazing. This is so tasty. And like I said, there's no flour in it, there's no sugar in it, and there's no dairy. And you'd never think that if you saw this. So just know that you can make some very delicious, healthy food swaps. Okay, now other types of dairy substitutions. Of course, I use the full can in a lot of different recipes. Most of the time when it calls for coconut milk, I'll just use it from the box. But especially the coconut cream and then whatever at the bottom, you can use in all kinds of recipes. Now, I have found occasionally I like cream cheese. So what do you do for cream cheese substitute? Well, I see this Daiya brand, D-A-I-Y-A. I have found this to be one of the cleanest and least expensive. So there's some made with cashew and almond and whatever. This is made with coconut milk, and it is every bit as good as cream cheese. Again, I have made many recipes, cheesecakes and frostings, and nobody ever knows that it is completely dairy-free. And again, this has pretty clean ingredients, and I think it really is wonderful in the outcome of what it does. If you are really, really wanting cheese, now I've gotten used to just putting like avocado in my tacos or avocado on a lot of sandwiches and stuff, so I never, ever even need cheese. But occasionally, I think it would be nice someday to eat a pizza or something like that. And so I have found recently there is Miyoko's, and I have found this in a number of stores. So I'll put this up here so that you can see it. It's kind of a mozzarella cheese. This one's liquid. You can see I can kind of shake it. And this one is actually the same brand. And it again, made out of cashews, but it's more shreddable. So kind of pricey, but like I said, I'm only doing something with these maybe once every 2 or 3 months. I'm not a big cheese person, never have been. And if you are, at least these are more recommended. They're cleaner ingredients than most of what I've seen out there, because I've seen a lot of stuff out there that is just terrible. All right, as far as dips, I have learned to make, I just posted a recipe just a couple of weeks ago on YouTube. Hopefully you can go look at it. Cilantro green chili dip. Oh, it is to die for. I love having a dip with my veggies. And without going to any of these dairy dips, this is made with almonds, soaked almonds. If you can't do almonds, you can do any of the other white nuts, like pine nuts or macadamias, or even cashews. But I've just done it with almonds, and I love the flavor. There's so many fun things you can do with this. And again, dips is something that, hey, you can use your nuts and have a really good dip. And so these are great recipes and great substitutions. Okay, next thing we are going into is sugars. What do we do to replace sugar? So my absolute favorite, of course, is definitely honey. And I have a local beekeeper here, and so I do buy it in the gallon. He actually doesn't sell it except for 4 gallons at a time. So I call my daughters and we all do get a gallon each, or 2 each or whatever. But honey is really, especially in its unprocessed form, I hate to say it, but most of the honey that you find in the store is pasteurized. And so you're missing those vital nutrients. So you really want to get a raw honey. And I just really like having a good beekeeper that I can trust and does good honey. So the only problem with honey is that it does have, it is high glycemic. And so if you're looking for low glycemic sweeteners, you'll just have to know that that is more of a high glycemic sweetener. So pure maple syrup, definitely a really good sweetener. In fact, when I was taken off of all sweeteners, I could have pure maple syrup and nothing else. Well, of course, that was, decades ago, and there's a lot more available now, but pure maple syrup was at that point way better than most anything, even honey. So it has a better glycemic. Additionally, coconut sugar is another sweetener that is lower glycemic. But and again, I like the coconut sugar because it's not bleached, very minimally processed, and you've got those vital vitamins and nutrients in them that are good. Now, if you're trying to go low glycemic, there are several choices out there. Now, the one thing that I encourage people to do is read labels, because when I started, I started going to the monk fruit sweeteners. And most of the monk fruit sweeteners, unfortunately, have erythritol. And erythritol is a sugar alcohol. Stay away from that. Don't buy anything with erythritol in it. It is genetically modified. Most of it is. Sometimes it says it's not, but it is terrible for your gut health. And so monk fruit is actually from a fruit itself. And this is a monk fruit with allulose. This is the sweeteners I usually try to get, the monk fruit with allulose. Now, this is even a golden one, and it says no erythritol. So this is the brown sugar substitute. Here is an allulose monk fruit. These are the ones that I usually look for. The allulose monk fruit, and this is the white one. That one is the one with the golden. Or you can get just pure allulose, which is what this is. There's no label on it. But allulose also comes from fruit, from figs and what's the other thing? Raisins, I think. Figs and raisins, I think, is where they get allulose. But it, again, is a very, very low glycemic index. All of these monk fruit allulose blends are low glycemic. So basically, they're no calorie, no glycemic. So they're way better for stabilizing your blood sugar levels. I just encourage people to don't go overboard on these, though. Make sure that you use them within reasons. Now, another one that I use and recommend is definitely stevia. And stevia is, this is the one that I really trust and have used more over the years than anything. It is less processed, or stevia is actually a plant. I've grown it in my garden. And if you pick out just the 1/4 inch of the end of the leaf, it is so sweet. It is super sweet. Anyway, so when they extract just the pure syrup, it's kind of green. So it will kind of turn things a little bit brown or green, if you get just the concentrated. Now, there's other kinds that are clarified. And again, there's just a little bit more processing. So I feel like this brand, the Sweet Leaf brand, can you see it? Okay. Sweet Leaf brand is one that I trust more. Can you see it? And I feel like that has my approval more than anything. So again, I already showed you about the powdered. Some recipes, like in this whipped cream, I want it powdered, and I just basically take a cup of it at a time and put it in my blender, and then I have it when I need a teaspoon or tablespoon here and there, and it's great. So easy to do, or you can buy it powdered, but I just prefer doing things like this myself and not having them add other ingredients. Okay, sugars. We've talked about sugars. All right, next thing is eggs. Now, I like eggs, and I use a lot of eggs. We have our own chickens, and I really do like eggs, so that this is not a problem for me. But I found that when you go to the store and you get these eggs that say cage-free, beware, because cage-free, if you don't know what cage-free eggs are, go look it up online and say, ask for a picture to show you what a cage-free cage looks like for their hens, because it's disheartening to see how crowded they are. Instead, we do have our own eggs, and this is just a carton from someone. So it's fun to have your own eggs that you can use. And you can see these are from a variety of chickens, and it's kind of fun. There's chickens deserve to be outside eating the green grass and eating more greens rather than just grains. And so that's a difference, again, between your high omega eggs and your omega-6 eggs. The more grains is omega-6. The more greens is the omega-3s, and that's what we want. So these are omega-3 eggs. And so keep that in mind. We really love raising our only chickens. Now, if you can't do eggs, there is one thing that you can do instead. This is flax seeds. And if you take 2 tablespoons of flaxseed and boil it in 2 cups of water, then it actually makes this gel. And you can use it a quarter of a cup for every egg in most recipes. It doesn't whip like egg whites, but you can use this in place of eggs if you need to. Now, I did this for years when I, didn't have eggs, and this was just the thing that I went to. And then I realized you can actually just ground up some flax seeds, and a lot of recipes you could just throw the ground or the flax seed meal in, and it's actually great. So, like I said, I'd rather use the eggs, and that's what I do most of the time. But if you can't have eggs, this is a good substitute, your flax and your flax gel. Okay, we haven't talked a lot about meats. Again, we talked about the harm of most meats out there. Make sure that you go for the grass-fed and organic. That's what you want to see. Even if you can't find both of those, grass-fed is better than just organic. Why? Again, we're talking about the omega-6, omega-3s. Anything that's grass-fed, grass-finished is even better, because most of the people, and in fact, my daughter was telling me this just last night at a class that I taught. She was saying her neighbor down the street does grass-fed beef, but then they fatten them up at the end with the grains, which means that now they were all, it was this meat that was omega-3 powerhouse. And then they ruined it as they add the grain at the end, but they do that to get them ready for market. So most commercial growers just feed them grain. They just want them to fatten up as fast as possible and get them butchered. But for most more careful ranchers are still letting them grow up on the grass, but then they're finishing them with the grains to fatten them up. So they're not grass finished. So grass-fed, grass-finished is really the best. I realize it's hard to come by, and not everything that we eat is that, but we do at least make sure that it is organic and look for that grass-fed. And that is more of the chicken and turkeys. And I'm not much of a red meat eater, but I always say if you're going to eat red meat, the wild red meat is really some of your best. And that's the elk and the deer and whatever. Or get the beef that is grass finished. Okay, so one thing that I do for our family, which is basically my husband and I and extended family when needed, is I try to get good sales if that's ever possible, or just times that I want to stock up. And for convenience sake, I like to bottle them. Now, interestingly, I can tell the difference between my chicken and turkey because chicken, I can just get chicken breasts and stuff them in there raw and then pressure cook them, always pressure cook. And whereas my turkeys, I always deep pit them, and then I have to take the meat off the bone, which is already cooked, but then you put it in the jars with the juice, and the processing time is the same, whether it's raw to begin with or whether it's cooked. It's still 75 minutes pressure cooked. And then I have convenient meat that's not in a can. And I really like that. Now, many times I will cook it up ahead of time, like ground, and then I will freeze it. And I will freeze it in containers, especially if you buy 1.5 pounds at a time. And my husband and I aren't eating that much, for one sitting. So I'll put part of it in the freezer for another meal. And so it's, again, convenient. So I think the big key there is, and then last but not least is your fish. I don't have anything to show you here, but get the wild caught fish. I think that is definitely your best. The salmon and the sardines and the shrimp seemed like there was one more S that was good, that they said are some of our healthier fishes. So salmon, sardines, and shrimp. And if you'll look for those to get them well caught. Now, shrimp, I think, is a little bit controversial of whether it's that great for you, but even tuna can have some of the mercury. And I still do tuna on occasion, the tuna steaks. And halibut is another really good one. So make sure to get those wild caught because that's what you're looking for a good, healthy fish. Okay, last but not least, I'm going to talk about drinks. If you could switch out all of the drinks for some good, healthy drinks, this is where I think you would do your body such good. It was about 1 year or 2 ago that I saw a study that said, or an article actually, that said studies show that 45% of Americans' intake of sugar comes from drinks. That makes me sick. And I would almost like to bet you that 45% of people's budget often comes from drinks. You think of when people go into a restaurant, or let's talk about fast food. People go into a fast food place and they order, something for $5 and then their drink is $2.50. It's almost the same amount. It's amazing that you are spending that much on drinks. Whereas if we could just drink water, that would be so much better. But people say, well, I like flavor. So one of the things that I have learned that is so good as far as making flavored water is our essential oils. And this is a 2-quart container of water. And I just want to share what one of my favorite, especially in the summer, drinks are. So good, so out of this world. I actually served it last night at our class, and I thought I would make it for you tonight. So we're going to take 16 drops of lime essential oil. Now, lime, as well as all of our other citrus, sorry, I had to count, as well as our other citrus essential oils, they stimulate good gut metabolism, digestion, they're purifying, they're alkalizing, they're detoxing, and they're really good for gut health. So whether it's lime or lemon or wild orange, any of these are so good for your gut health. So we did 16 drops of lime and 3 drops of spearmint, only 3. Now, if you do more than 3, it really is a little strong. Spearmint is pretty strong. Peppermint isn't quite as strong as spearmint is. And then I like to get my stevia, and I'm going to add about 6 drops of stevia, 6 or 7 drops there. And 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And then we are just going to give it a little stir. Everybody at the event last night just loved this. They just couldn't believe how yummy it was. And I'm telling you, it is so good. Now, I've gone to a lot of events and I've done a lot of different combinations, but everyone votes on this as being the best. So I'm just going to pour myself a cup of it just to have a little drink. Really good. Now, you might like it sweeter. If you like it more of a limeade, then you can add a few more drops of the stevia, if that's your preference. But some people like it just like this, and it is very refreshing. Great in the summertime. Like I says, it's great year round. I have found just with water, adding wild orange, people drink more water once they have wild orange or lemon added. These seem to be a very big favorite. Also, grapefruit is really good, but lime is good. Green mandarin, there's a lot of different citrus essential oils. Again, they're all alkalizing, detoxing, good for your gut metabolism, raising your energy. They're so good for doing that. Okay, one other that I really love in my drink is MetaPower. This is really good for curbing your cravings, and it's also good for stimulating metabolism and helping you drop pounds naturally. So this is great. Add 10 drops to a glass of water in the morning, drink it down, and do it again in the evening. This is really good for stimulating your gut and helping you shed pounds easier. So that's a great thing. But I also want to share my chai tea recipe. So this is something that I've really, really enjoyed, and I love doing in the wintertime. But, if you like doing, coffees or teas all year round, consider making this. Now, I like doing 2 drops to about 8 to 10 ounces of hot water. This is cold water, but to 8 to 10 ounces of water, 2 drops of each of these. Lemon, 2 drops. Turmeric is for inflammation. The black pepper is for curbing your cravings, as well as good for digestion and immune boosting. So it's a really good one. Cinnamon is really good for immune boosting and digestion as well, and knocking those little bugs out there, right? And then ginger, also really good for digestion. So this little formula here, the lemon, turmeric, black pepper, cinnamon, and ginger is a great chai tea. Really good. Just add, 2 or 3 drops of your stevia and add a creamer to it, like coconut milk, and you've got a wonderful chai tea. So, and you can serve it warm or cold. It's good either way. But I really like that combination. And like I said, what we're trying to do is remove all these unhealthy drinks and let's bring in the good things, because this is what I've learned about essential oils. Where we have all the chemicals in drinks and in foods, we can use our essential oils, not the artificial flavors, not the enhancers, not the preservatives. We can use essential oils that are natural. Now, you'll notice that I only use doTERRA brand, and I only use the ones that have a supplement fact label. The supplement fact label is really, really important. Hopefully you can see that. And it's really, really important. I would not use any other brand because I don't trust what they are doing to their oils. So, but the other thing that I've learned about essential oils is that they accelerate all your bodily processes, your natural bodily processes. So if we're talking about digestion, we can add them to our water and they increase digestion, they increase cleansing, they increase detox, they increase alkalizing, dropping pounds. If you add them to your skin, it increases the regeneration power. So whatever you're doing already and how your body works already, when you add the essential oils, it just accelerates the action in what your body's already trying to do and accomplish. So that's what I love about the essential oils, and the fact that they can really provide many wonderful benefits. So we've gone through a lot tonight. We've talked about how to replace grains as well as dairy and eggs, and the healthier swaps for meats and sugars and even drinks. And hopefully some of the things that I have shared have given you some insights on really what you can do to improve in some way. And hopefully you'll take at least 1 or 2 steps this week to try some of these healthy food swaps, and make sure that you look for good sources of healthy food swaps, because there's a lot of stuff out there. A lot of it isn't good. And you want to look for things that are good for your body. So I do want to invite you to my YouTube channel, because I share a lot of healthy recipes there. Please go and subscribe, and I will put the link in the comments. And you can see all my upcoming videos or the past videos that are all about healthy food swaps, what you can do to actually improve your diet with healthy food swaps. If you want to get started with the essential oils, to me, which accelerates all of the benefits, all you have to do is go to dropbydropwellness.com or go to the link in the comments to get a starter bundle. And that's a great way to get started. But I really thank you for coming and appreciate you being here and taking the time to do so. It's time for you to take action.